back. Well, since we're here, today I'm going to do some basic maintenance on the Kioti. We're going to do the first break-in oil change. I've got about 56 hours on it, which they recommended at 50, so I'm a little bit over. We're also going to check the air pressure on all the tires, the torque specs on all the wheels. We're going to check the screens on the radiator. We're going to blow out the air filter and grease all the grease fittings on the tractor. Just do a quick run through on it. But the main thing is going to be the oil change. So first I went over to the Kioti dealer, picked up an oil filter and 2 gallons of oil. They gave me the Kioti lube, the 15W40. So we're going to use what they recommend using. You can also, according to the manual, you can also use 10W30, 10W40, but we're going to be using the 15W40. The oil capacity on this with the oil filter is 1.53 gallons on the 2610. On the 3510 and the 4010, it's 1.95 gallons. But all that information is in your Kioti manual, so you can just check that out. Okay, obviously all the maintenance information that you're going to need on your tractor is going to be in your Kioti manual. The Kioti manual covers the 2610, the 3510, and the 4010 CK series. So tire pressure, torque specs, all your Zerk fittings, all that information is going to be in here. It's pretty easy the way they lay it out in here. And I also like to take notes in the back page of the service manual, just showing the date and the hours on the engine whenever I do any kind of maintenance. I also have the tractor delivery date on here just so I can keep all that information, because it's easy to forget. So let's go ahead and get started on this oil change. So oil change, let's take a look at the oil filter. It's going to be on the right side of the tractor, right basically behind the fan, right there, the fan blade. Oil filter looks like it was dated before, 3/13/21, which was, I think I dated that actually when I got it. The drain plug is directly underneath. There's actually 2 drain plugs. You can see the pan is split right there, so we will have to take out each drain plug to get all the oil out of each one of those reservoirs there. It's all the same, but it's just split. So, and then we'll take a look at the oil fill, which is kind of hard to get to. So I pulled down the brush guard here. Might make it a little bit easier. I know you can remove the hood, but I'm not going to do all that. But it's right on top of the motor. Right there. It says oil on it, right on top of the valve cover there. So it'll probably be somewhat challenging to fill the oil again, but we'll get it. All right, a couple of quick notes before we drain the oil in this thing. I did let it warm up for like 5 minutes just to get that oil nice and warm, because it's a little bit cold out now. We're getting into the fall, so I wanted to make sure it was kind of warm so it all drain out of there pretty nice. So I've let it sit for about 10 minutes now. The other thing is, whenever, especially in a break-in, whenever I change oil on something, I make sure I clean that pan out real good and make sure there's no debris in there, because once we drain this oil, I like to take a flashlight and kind of inspect the oil to make sure that there's no metallic shavings in there or any kind of chunks that come out of there, something that could possibly be an issue. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's a 17 millimeter wrench for these drain plugs. Okay, next step, we're going to pull off the oil filter, which is located right next to the front right tire. I've got an oil pan kind of jammed underneath here. They never seem to put these oil filters in a good place on anything where they're not gonna get oil all over something. So just gotta do your best to jam it in there and try to catch as much as you can. Okay, I got the old filter off. The camera cut out, but you know how they come off. So I got the old filter off. I kind of wiped everything down because it was kind of a mess. I got our new filter here. I'm gonna go ahead and use a little dab of the new oil and put it on the ring, the O-ring here, which I think everyone knows to do. I'm gonna wipe this down one final time. I'll throw this new filter on. I'm just gonna hand tighten it about as tight as I can. You don't want to over tighten it. Then I'm gonna go ahead and date it. And that's it. Now we're gonna go ahead and throw the drain plugs back in. It looks like it's about done draining, and then we'll get ready to fill it back up again. Okay, so we're gonna throw some oil in this thing now. The 2610, which I have, takes 1.53 gallons, so we're gonna go ahead and throw 1 full gallon in. Then the other one, I actually marked out the level on this thing on the little indicator, and I actually measured it in half, which is right here, and then another 0.3, I'm just kind of guessing, so at least gives me some kind of a point to aim for, and then we can just check the dipstick when we get it close. Okay, so we got the drain plugs in, the oil filter is on and tight, we got it dated, and I've got approximately 1.53 gallons of oil back in it. I put the cap back on, so the next step is we're going to start this thing up, let it run for a couple of minutes, shut it back off, let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we're going to check that oil. That way we can get that oil circulating through the motor, get it into that new oil filter so we can get a good, accurate check on that level. While it's running as well, you're also going to be checking for any oil lights or pressure lights that might come on. So we didn't see any, so we're in good shape. All right, next thing we're going to do while we're waiting for that oil to kind of settle is I'm going to go ahead and pull these 2 radiator screens off and blow them out and blow out the all these condenser fins here. There is some stuff in there, but I usually open this thing up and check on this daily. I mean, you're supposed to, especially if you're brush hogging. That thing will get clogged up and your motor will start to overheat. So it's definitely important to check this on a regular basis, if not daily like they recommend. So there's just a couple of wing nuts here we gotta pop off, and then these screens pull right out. Okay, well, we got the air hose out here, and since we're up here, let's go ahead and open up the air filter and maybe blow that thing out as well.
while we're up front here, we're gonna go ahead and check the coolant level, and it looks like we're just a smidge below the low level. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up to full. Okay, another thing to check while we're up here in the front of the engine here. So we did the air filter, cleaned out all the screens there, blew everything out. I also always like to check the battery terminal connections just to make sure there's no corrosion on them. Because it's one thing that can get overlooked, especially if it's not in plain sight. And the next thing you know, your tractor's dead. So it doesn't ever hurt either to take those connections apart and throw some dielectric grease on them as well. But everything looks good for right now. Okay, now this thing's been sitting for a little bit. Let's go ahead and check the oil level now. Looks like we're just a smidge below that full notch, so I might throw a little bit more in there. I think we'll be good. All right, now we're gonna check the tire pressure and all the tires. The front tires are supposed to be at 45 PSI, the rear is supposed to be at 41. When I got my tractor, when it got delivered from the dealer, I actually took a little bit of pressure out of the back. I forgot what I brought them down to, but it was just really bumpy. Whenever I would drive through the property, it was just jarring me around in there. And I actually think they had them overinflated a little bit, so I'll check them again and see what they're at. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and check the torque specs on all the wheels. So the front tires are between 57 and 67, so I'm going to go like somewhere in the 62 range. That's what I have mine set on. So all right, onto the rear. The rear is between 144 and 166, so I'm going to go ahead and set it to 150. The front lugs, by the way, I've got 11/16 on there, fit it pretty good. The back one is 15/16. So one thing that I like to do when I'm greasing is use some of these shop paper towels and wipe off some of that excess grease that's on there. All that old grease just starts to accumulate over time and it just gets out of hand. So I just wipe off as much as I can and then I'll put fresh grease in it. So this is one of my favorite tools probably, battery grease gun. No, DeWalt doesn't sponsor me, no one sponsors me, so I wish they did. This thing is awesome, it works great, it's very fast. You don't have to sit there and try to purge it with the hand pump, so I highly recommend one of these, especially for as many grease fittings as these tractors have. So let's go ahead and start greasing this thing up. Okay, here's our last two grease fittings. We're on the front right side of the tractor, right underneath the axle here. We've got this one right here, and then we have another one on the back side. So I don't think that they take a whole lot. I'm gonna go ahead and hit them real quick. Okay everybody, that's it for today's maintenance video on the Kioti. Hopefully it was helpful for you. Everything that I did on this was all stuff that I read right out of the manual. I'm not a certified mechanic, I'm not claiming to be one. I prefer to do all my own maintenance on my machinery and vehicles just because I really don't trust anybody. The other part of this break-in service is actually the hydraulic fluid change and the front axle fluid. So I didn't put that in this video. I might put that in another video, it's a little bit more time consuming. So I just want to go ahead and thank my sponsor, Keystone Light. I'm just kidding. Nobody sponsors me, but I just like cheap beer. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. Keystone Light, a Coors product. I'm just kidding.